Joining me now is Stephanie Bastiaan, Head of Advocacy at Women's Forum Australia. Stephanie, this won't come as a huge surprise. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns is supporting Alex Greenwich's equality bill. He confirmed that while opening a new preschool in Liverpool.
Alex Greenwich's amended equality bill, I think, should pass the parliament. That's what I'll be recommending.
The bill will be debated in New South Wales Parliament this week. Some of the most concerning aspects of the bill include the introduction of self-ID, which will allow anyone to change their legal sex, including children, enabling males to legally identify as female, for example, and access women's-only spaces. Steph, this could become law very quickly. What would it mean for women and girls in New South Wales?
Well, good evening, Rita. It is very concerning that the Minns government have done a backflip on this bill. They've sort of been pushing it down the road and vacillating for nearly 12 months, and suddenly there's this new version and they're now ramming it through. This is going to impact women and girls in particular. It takes away their right to privacy and safety of single-sex spaces because it entrenches into law men's rights to be protected under law as women. If, for example, you have a man undressing in a children or a female bathroom, and there's no avenue for women to complain, whereas once upon a time they could have. And in fact, they're at risk of being prosecuted under these laws because they'll be protected under, say, the Discrimination Act. The opposition have formally opposed this bill, but they've only had 2 hours to read it. The debate started this afternoon. I imagine it'll probably be rammed through tonight, and then it'll go to the upper house tomorrow. But this is just such a poor piece of legislation. And as we've seen in Queensland, where they've got sex self-ID laws, women are being prosecuted. These laws are intentional to change, to protect men and to give them the laws that are afforded that are meant to protect women.
And it's incredible because these laws are being introduced without any sort of groundswell of support from the public. In fact, I would say that if you put this to the public, the overwhelming majority would reject this sort of legislation. But here we are. How does New South Wales legislation compare to what's in place here in Victoria?
You only need to have a certificate. So you can have a certificate saying that you're a woman. You go and change your ID at the registry office. They are not requiring any form of medical treatment or proof of that you've had a physical change. And you can then go and get documentation that says you're a woman, and then you're able to access all the protection spaces, sporting grounds, prison systems, you name it. It just changes the game and removes all those protections for women.
You mentioned prison systems. Here in Victoria, we've got a male sex offender, at least one that we know of, who identifies as female and is now housed in a women's prison, someone with a horrific history of offences against women and children, sexual offences. Could that happen in New South Wales?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, the government may have protocols in place that are allowing it. But the problem with these laws is that it entrenches it. It gives them legal rights. So if it's not, it will. And then it is another piece of legislation that needs to be repealed. One thing that came up in Sal Grover's case was that Justice Bromwich said that the legislators were very intentional when they changed these laws to allow people to change sex. And so this is very intentional legislation giving men this power to identify where and how they want. So in terms of whether they access or whether they can go into female prisons, the legal mandate is now there to allow them to do that regardless of what their offences are and regardless of the safety risks to women.
Now, finally, the University of Nevada's female volleyball team is the latest to forfeit matches against San Jose State, whose team includes a transgender player, Blair Fleming. However, the University of Nevada's management has contradicted the players, stating that the players' refusal to play against San Jose does not represent the university's position and that it intends to proceed with the match. Players are finally taking a stand, Stephanie, refusing to participate in this farce that sees male bodies compete in women's sport, but the bureaucracy isn't standing with the athletes.
Doesn't this just show the gap between the institutions and the public? Good on these women for pushing back. It is utterly unfair that female competitors have to play with biological males who have a physical and a physical advantage over them with their height and their strength. I do think that the only way that you're going to rectify the problem in sport is by female athletes boycotting games, because once you have male players, it's no longer a female competition, it's a mixed competition. So if these women don't turn up to play against these men, the rules will have to change because there won't be a competition. So all power to them, and I hope we see more of it happening here.
And we've got to understand it's not just at the very elite level, the Olympic level, national championships. It's also at the lower levels and for young girls as well, when they work so hard to reach the height of their sport, to earn scholarships, to earn all sorts of opportunities, and to have that compromised by mediocre male athletes who would never get those opportunities in men's sport, I think is just unacceptable. And for too long, female athletes have been scared to take a stand, Steph.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a train of thought that community level sport, women are actually more at risk of injury because they're less conditioned to play. And quite often their careers are ended early. Community sport is often a stepping stone into elite sport. So if you get an injury in those early years, which is happening particularly in AFLW, we've had a number of women reach out since Caroline Marcus ran her story on AFLW, where they've got life-limiting injuries. They've not been able to work. It's a significant problem, and it stops their career there and then. So community sport, it's a much greater risk than elite sport. All sport should be protected.
Thank you for your time, Stephanie.